When submitting identity information, Giselle's application was rejected 9 times. The APP kept notifying her that her spouse's information was incorrectly filled, yet she had double-checked it 100 times. Joseph, 29 years old, their marriage began last March, no mistakes at all. After being rejected for the 10th time, Giselle angrily called, demanding to know what was going on. "Please calm down, let me check for you," after clicking the mouse twice. The staff member looked at Giselle with a strange expression. "Miss Giselle, are you sure you didn't misremember your spouse's name? The system shows your husband's name is Regan." Giselle stiffened, her face drained of color, nearly exclaiming, "What did you say? It must be a mistake. There's no way. Regan is my husband's uncle. He's been in a vegetative state for 7 years, lying motionless in a hospital bed. How could he possibly marry me?" Giselle stood up immediately, panic written all over her face. How could you mess up something as serious as marriage registration? Countless eyes quickly turned toward them. The staff member, likely an intern, grew pale with urgency and hastily pulled up Joseph's marital records. She directly turned the computer screen right under her eyes. "Ms. Giselle, the Joseph you mentioned has Isabella registered in the spouse column. Do you know her?" A buzz sound. Giselle's ears instantly rang with a deafening hum. Trembling, she collapsed onto the chair, staring fixedly at those 3 words. Isabella, how could she not recognize her? She had previously been the caregiver for her vegetative younger uncle. Now she was the Stewart family's arranged bride, chosen through astrological matching to bring luck to her uncle. Yet she had an even more crucial identity. She had an open crush on Joseph for a full decade, chasing him so fervently and wildly that the whole world knew. Yet, Joseph fell for Giselle instead. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Joseph fell in love with Giselle at first sight during a banquet, and his pursuit of her stirred up a storm across the city. Giselle merely mentioned she liked roses, and Joseph bought out every single rose in northern Beijing overnight, piling them atop her building. Giselle frowned slightly. Joseph immediately bought out the entire stock of the mousse cake she disliked and had it removed from shelves nationwide. Giselle made an offhand joke. Joseph disregarded the dignity of the prestigious Stewart family, climbing 3,000 steps on his knees to the body temple to procure a protective charm for her. He said, "As long as Giselle is happy, I'm willing to do anything." Giselle was deeply moved by him, and the two finally found their happy ending, after falling in love. Joseph not only showed no slack in this relationship, but instead pampered and cherished her even more intensely, treating her like a treasure held in the palm of his hand. During this time, Isabella never gave up her feelings for Joseph. She took her love for Joseph to the extreme. Joseph went wherever. Isabella would follow by any means necessary, so much so that on one occasion, Joseph had an accident, and Isabella became the one who saved him, losing half her hearing in the process. That day, Giselle hurried to the hospital and saw Joseph standing on the balcony smoking, his face clouded with gloom. The moment he locked eyes with Giselle, he dropped all defenses, pressing his temples with visible irritation. "Who asked her to save me? Now I've gone deaf for my own sake." Joseph, feeling guilty about the matter, introduced Isabella to a job with a monthly salary as high as 100,000, being a caregiver for her vegetative brother-in-law. Later, because their birth signs matched, Grandpa Stewart even gave her a large sum of money, coercing and enticing her to become her brother-in-law's wife. No matter what Giselle had imagined, she never expected that in the end, she wouldn't become her brother-in-law's wife. Instead, she became Joseph's wife. Giselle still couldn't believe it and insisted on filing a complaint. Soon, the staff called for their supervisor and another staff member who had handled their marriage paperwork years ago. The moment Giselle was seen, the other person suddenly realized, "It's you. I still remember. I had just graduated and started working then. It was my first time handling such a strange case, so it left a lasting impression. At that time, the 3 of you came together to register your marriage. Besides you, there was also a Mr. Stewart and a Ms. Isabella. There was another gentleman who didn't come, but you presented proof saying he was in a vegetative state and couldn't make it. Mr. Stewart kept his arm around you the whole time, and you two seemed very close. I thought you were the one marrying Mr. Stewart, but when it came time to register, he told me his spouse was actually that Ms. Isabella. I double-checked with him when signing and stamping. There's no mistake. Mr. Stewart married Ms. Isabella, while you were wed to this Regan gentleman." Afraid Giselle wouldn't believe them, they even dug out their old work recorders. The facts were laid bare. It was Joseph who personally married her off to his vegetative younger brother. There was no denying it. Giselle didn't even know how she left the civil affairs office. As she got into the taxi, Joseph called to ask why she wasn't at home. "I miss you so much," Joseph whispered coquettishly. "Giselle, I've been on a business trip for half a month, after so long apart. Don't you miss me at all? I'm about to board the plane. Get yourself cleaned up and wait nicely for your husband at home, okay? The suggestive, husky voice was full of temptation. Giselle's heart remained utterly unmoved. She even calmly began analyzing this phone call. When she answered, she heard a very brief burst of sound waves, but soon it disappeared without a trace. Giselle used to frequent Cloud 9, so she was absolutely certain that Joseph was there now. Her voice softened as she said, "All right, I'll hang up first. I'll be waiting for you at home." After ending the call, she calmly told the driver, "Take me to Cloud 9. Giselle rushed straight to the surveillance room, requesting to review the footage under the pretext of having lost a ring. Meanwhile, in the exclusive VIP lounge ablaze with neon lights and liquor, Joseph, who should have been oceans away, lounged lazily in an emerald green silk shirt, slowly swirling his glass of red wine. "Did you get those buns from the shop in the Southern District like I asked?" Joseph accepted a bag of steamed dumplings, his eyes brimming with tenderness. "Giselle is picky. This is her favorite place. She always eats so much here. She's too thin. She ought to eat more. What's wrong with the missus being slim? Don't you have a plumper companion right here?" joked Joseph's brother. Joseph shot them a cold glare. "How many times do I have to say it? Don't joke about Giselle. Watch your mouths. If she catches even a whiff about Isabella, none of you will be staying in City J. All right, we know you adore your wife," the group quickly chimed in. "But Joseph, you know her temper better than anyone. Honestly, you should just change the name on the marriage certificate already. If she finds out..." "No." Joseph straightened up abruptly, his gaze darkening. "Isabella said she has a cursed fate. Chosen to be a sacrificial bride for her brother-in-law. If she marries into that family, she'll die within 99 days. She'd rather die than go through with it. I owe her a pair of ears. She can't enjoy my blatant favoritism like Giselle does, so she has to hide in the shadows. Putting her name on the marriage certificate is the only thing I can do for her now." "But," the brothers hesitated, "aren't you afraid sister-in-law will find out, or if your brother-in-law wakes up? She'll never forgive you in this lifetime." "Then keep your mouths shut. She'll never find out in this lifetime," Joseph said darkly. "As for that brother-in-law of mine, he'll never wake up anyway. Having Giselle's name tied to him isn't a problem." "Not a problem." Giselle stared at the monitor, her blood running cold with such pain that even breathing hurt. How could he think it was no big deal to marry the woman he loved to his uncle? Giselle curled her lips into a mocking smile. "Joseph, if I disappeared along with your uncle, would you still think it's no big deal?" Rushing out of the Cloud Club, Giselle immediately contacted her parents overseas. "Mom, Dad, help me book 2 plane tickets. I'll send you the ID numbers. Sweetie, are you coming for a visit?" Giselle's mom chuckled before suddenly pausing. "Wait, this ID, isn't this Joseph's vegetative uncle? Are you bringing him with you?" Regan lived in a private hospital in the suburbs. Giselle made a special trip and learned that taking Regan away only required a handwritten signature from a family member. As Regan's wife, she happened to have just such qualifications, so Giselle produced the marriage certificate she had printed at the Civil Affairs Bureau and signed a transfer consent form. The time is set for 7 days later, and during these 7 days, she still has many things to do. Giselle only after finishing everything at the hospital and checking her phone did she realize Joseph had gone mad. After making over 100 calls and sending more than 200 messages without receiving any response from her, he had directly started a global live broadcast. Giselle froze her expression and clicked on the live stream. Inside, Joseph looked haggard, unshaven, and full of worry. "I can't reach my Giselle. Anyone who provides information about Giselle will receive a 100,000 yuan reward. If you can help me find Giselle, 5 million. In the final frame, his voice was hoarse and utterly exhausted. "If someone has kidnapped Giselle, you can contact my private number anytime. 100 million, a billion, 10 billion. I'll pay anything, just don't hurt her." In the bottom right corner of the screen was Joseph's private phone number. The screen was already flooded with bullet comments. Good heavens, to have a husband like Joseph. Giselle must have accumulated 8 lifetimes worth of blessings. Come on, it's just been a few hours without contact. Is it really worth worrying this much? It's not even been long enough to file a missing persons report. What do you know? It just shows how much Joseph loves Giselle, terrified she might come to harm. He even publicly shared his private number. Doesn't Joseph fear his phone getting blown up? Giselle's heart felt as if gripped by an invisible hand. Her breath suddenly growing faint. The world speaks of his profound love, and she had personally experienced it more than once. She couldn't help but recall that time when, simply because her phone was stolen while shopping, Joseph couldn't reach her for 2 hours. He simply gave up the Stewart family's 2-year-long major project and flew over 10 hours back to find her. At that time, he had just taken office as CEO. For her sake, He abandoned a project worth nearly 10 billion in profits. Old Master Steward whipped him 99 times until his body was covered in bloody wounds, yet he simply held her and smiled. Gazelle, as long as you're safe, that's all that matters. For this, he nearly lost his status as the heir. Yet, it was this very man who loved her so deeply that, for the sake of Isabella, personally arranged her marriage to his vegetative younger brother. How ridiculous. Gazelle turned pale and was about to return Joseph's call. The door was suddenly kicked open with a loud bang. The next second, Gazelle was pulled into a scorching embrace. Joseph trembled uncontrollably, even his breath shaking. Gazelle, why aren't you answering my calls? You nearly scared me to death. Do you have any idea how crazy I've been going trying to find you? Gazelle was held tightly in his arms, cherished like a priceless treasure, yet faintly, I caught a whiff of subtle herbal medicine scent emanating from the other person. She always felt the scent was familiar, yet no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't recall where she had smelled it before, until Isabella's tender and delicate face suddenly appeared. The moment she stepped in, the cramped room was filled with the pungent scent of medicinal herbs. Isabella studied traditional Chinese medicine as an undergraduate, and later worked as a caregiver for Regan, attempting to awaken Regan using traditional Chinese medical methods. So she always carried the scent of herbal medicine with her. If they had merely shared a room briefly, that scent couldn't possibly have lingered on Joseph for so long. Gazelle stiffened her expression and pushed Joseph away. My phone died. Isabella pursed her lips into a smile. Little sister hasn't visited Regan's place in centuries. What suddenly brought you here today? She took 2 steps forward, inadvertently revealing a love bite on her collarbone. Gazelle's gaze froze instantly. That spot was where Joseph loved leaving hickeys most. He believed it was the sexiest part of a woman. Gazelle had once complained the spot was too conspicuous and wouldn't let him mark it. He just laughed domineeringly. Gazelle has always been the treasure I hold in my palm, and I want the whole world to know it. Who would have thought that now another woman has also become someone he wants to proclaim to the world? My parents contacted a specialist who said there's a chance my uncle might wake up, so we came today to check on his condition. Gazelle dispelled Joseph's doubts with just a few simple words. Joseph pulled her into a tight embrace, then produced a bag of steamed buns from his coat and handed it to Gazelle. There, now that we've found everyone, I can finally relax. Silly Gazelle, are you loving the crow for the sake of its nest? Even helping me worry about my little brother's affairs? He reached out, his fingers brushing along Gazelle's nose bridge, his eyes overflowing with tenderness. Gazelle, try these quickly. I bought these buns especially for you. The bun was still warm. Gazelle knew he must have been keeping it warm with his own body heat. Joseph was fastidious about cleanliness, yet he always ended up covered in grease just to let her have a hot bite. Gazelle pursed her lips, then took a bite of the meat bun anyway. Little did I expect that upon tasting it, a strong peanut flavor instantly filled my mouth. But Gazelle is allergic to peanuts. Gazelle's body immediately showed an allergic reaction. Her face instantly swelled and turned red. What's wrong, Gazelle? Don't scare me. Joseph was terrified and quickly scooped Gazelle up in his arms, completely at a loss. Doctor, get a doctor here now. Gazelle closed her eyes but didn't completely lose consciousness. The severe allergic reaction simply made it impossible for her to speak. Soon, the doctor arrived and began taking emergency measures for Gazelle, until the doctor suddenly exclaimed, "Is the patient allergic to peanuts? This bun seems to have peanut filling." With a loud bang, Joseph instantly hurled the entire bag of steamed buns into the trash can with force. Isabella was terrified and stammered in explanation. Mr. Joseph, I'm sorry, I didn't know my sister was allergic to peanuts. I just heard you liked peanuts, so I specially made peanut-filled buns, thinking you could eat them together later. That's why I put them in your bag," Joseph said hoarsely, with restrained anger. Gazelle is allergic to peanuts. To keep her safe, I haven't touched peanuts for over a decade. Did I tell you these buns were specially bought for Gazelle, and you shouldn't have touched them? But, Isabella burst into tears instantly. I didn't hear you, Mr. Joseph. You know I'm deaf in one ear. Maybe when you spoke, it was that ear facing you. The ward suddenly fell into an eerie silence. After what felt like an eternity, the doctor let out a heavy sigh. This young lady is fine now, but you must be careful in the future. Never let her touch peanuts again. The door slammed shut with a heavy thud. With a bang, Isabella dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, Mr. Joseph. It's all my fault. Punish me. I know I was wrong. I'll never dare to do it again. All right. After another moment of silence, Joseph finally spoke, but his previously firm voice had softened. You didn't know she was allergic to peanuts, and you didn't hear what I said. It was an accident. You shouldn't blame yourself. But Isabella kept kowtowing. It's all my fault that my sister got hurt. Even though I didn't mean it, I still caused her real harm. Mr. Joseph, Please punish me, or I might never get over this guilt in my heart. Joseph let out a light scoff, his tone deepening. How do you want me to punish you? How about I punish you by making you wear that outfit we bought in Hawaii the day before yesterday tonight? Giselle lay on the bed, her breath suddenly catching as needle-like pains instantly spread from her chest. Hawaii, the day before yesterday. Joseph, hasn't he been on a business trip in country Y all along? How could he be in Hawaii with Isabella? Isabella's saccharine voice rang out, Mr. Joseph. I'm already so grateful you're willing to spend half a month with me for my birthday. I don't ask for much, just a fraction of your attention would be enough for me. You should spend tonight with your sister properly. I don't want to come between you two. By the end, there was even a hint of grievance in her voice, yet to Giselle, it exploded like thunder in her ears. So, Joseph wasn't on a business trip, he was with Isabella. Giselle suddenly felt like a joke. Recalling how she'd called him every night, perhaps every time she spoke with Joseph, Isabella was watching from the side. Joseph smiled faintly. Let Giselle rest well tonight. Wasn't it you who asked to be punished? What? Backing out now? How could I? Isabella's cheeks flushed pink. Mr. Joseph, is this what you meant? Joseph caught his breath, and the next second, the two of them were actually kissing passionately right in front of the sleeping Giselle. The sound of ambiguous, intimate wet kisses and the clinking of chains filled the air as Giselle heard Isabella whimper uncontrollably. Mr. Joseph, what did you call me? Joseph said in a deep voice. Isabella, I told you, when Giselle isn't around, you should call me. Isabella paused slightly. Joseph, honey. The two kissed passionately, quickly pushing open the door and entering another compartment. Meanwhile, Giselle slowly opened her eyes at last, her gaze bloodshot and crimson. Once, Joseph had begged her to call him Joseph, honey, so desperately that he addressed her as sister right in front of all his subordinates. Under everyone's stunned gazes, she blushed furiously. Fine, I'll call you that, but this nickname is mine alone, you can't let anyone else use it. He had clearly agreed with a gentle smile, but it turned out he also let Isabella call him Joseph, honey. Giselle could no longer suppress the nausea churning in her stomach and immediately turned over to vomit off the bed. Who would have thought she'd discover their intimate toys carelessly left at the foot of the bed? It was a rabbit's tail and a pair of handcuffs. Joseph entered, his body carrying an even stronger scent of herbal medicine. Giselle pressed her chest, opening her mouth as if to vomit. Joseph quickly pulled her into his arms, full of concern. Giselle, are you still feeling unwell? Quick, call the doctor. I'm fine. Giselle calmly pressed his arm. What happened to me? How could I suddenly have such a severe allergic reaction? Joseph gave a slight flicker in his eyes. Giselle, it's all my fault. When buying steamed buns this time, I forgot to tell the vendor to get your favorite sauce-filled ones. He probably added a bit of every flavor. Giselle flashed a trace of mockery in her eyes. To cover for Isabella, he actually took the blame upon himself. It's all right. Giselle spoke calmly. It's already over. How can it be all right? You nearly scared me to death just now. Joseph held Giselle tightly, his eyes filled with concern. The doctor said you need proper rest. I don't trust anyone else, so let Isabella move in temporarily to take care of you, okay? Giselle shuddered and looked at Isabella in shock. The other person curled their lips into a scornful smile. She mouthed the words provocatively. You saw it, didn't you? Giselle averted her gaze. I know. Giselle was so docile it surprised Joseph. Giselle, you aren't angry. Yes, Joseph even knew she should be angry. After all, Isabella was his ex-girlfriend. How could she not be angry? But Giselle even smiled. Should I be angry? Didn't you always tell me that it was Isabella who liked you? Not that you disliked her, so I shouldn't mind. Giselle pulled away from Joseph's embrace and lay down. I'm tired and want to rest. Joseph's hand suddenly grasped at empty air, and a strange feeling quickly rose in his heart. He took a step forward, about to speak. Isabella suddenly exclaimed, Mr. Joseph, my cochlear implant fell off. Joseph immediately turned to leave. I'll help you find it. For the next 3 days, Giselle packed all her most important belongings. Everything she didn't need was burned to ashes, including all the photos she had taken with Joseph over the years. Besides that, she also bought a new notebook with an artificially aged look. I filled in quite a few diary entries above. As I was writing on the last page, Joseph's voice suddenly rang out, Giselle, what are you writing? Giselle immediately closed the diary and turned to look at him. Nothing special. Isn't our wedding anniversary coming up in a few days? I've prepared a handmade notebook for you as a gift. Joseph, his eyes welled up with emotion. Really, I'm looking forward to it. He reached out to hug Giselle, but she instinctively avoided him. Joseph was left hanging, somewhat surprised. Giselle, only now did he subtly sense that something was amiss. But just as he was about to press further, a sudden exclamation came from outside the room. My ear, my ear. Joseph paled slightly and immediately turned to run outside. Isabella was crouched on the floor, searching frantically for her cochlear implant. "What should I do, Mr. Joseph? I can't find my cochlear implant. I can't hear anything now." Isabella crawled frantically across the floor, searching desperately for that tiny cochlear implant. Soon, Isabella arrived at Giselle's room. Wanting to enter, Giselle blocked her directly. "Go look somewhere else. It can't possibly be here." Isabella burst into tears of grievance. "Mrs. Stewart, I know you're very unhappy about me moving in here to take care of you, but I truly have no other intentions toward Mr. Joseph anymore, now that I'm his aunt by marriage. What else could I possibly do? Please give my cochlear implant back. Don't make this difficult for me." As she spoke, she actually knelt on the ground and began kowtowing. Soon, her forehead became a bloody, mangled mess. Giselle pressed her lips together, looking down at her with disdain. "I told you. I didn't take your things." Joseph's hesitant gaze lingered on Giselle. "What, you don't believe me? How could that be?" Joseph hurriedly interjected. "Isabella, think again. Maybe you put it somewhere and forgot." "No way, I saw with my own eyes she placed it." Isabella stood up directly and pulled open Giselle's wardrobe, but with a loud bang, the wardrobe suddenly toppled over toward Isabella and Giselle. At the critical moment, Joseph pulled Isabella into his arms, shielding her tightly. Giselle, however, was crushed beneath the heavy wardrobe, with splintered wood piercing deep into her abdomen, blood gushing out. Before closing her eyes, Joseph charged at her like a madman, his eyes bloodshot. Giselle couldn't help but laugh. If he cared so much about her, why was the person he protected Isabella? When I opened my eyes again, the room was empty. The phone was ringing loudly. Giselle trembled as she pressed the speaker button. Giselle's mom's voice immediately blared out. "Sweetheart, I've bought both plane tickets. I've sent the details to your WeChat, flight tickets." The hospital room door was Joseph violently pushed open as he stood gloomily in the doorway. "Giselle, where are you going?" Giselle turned off speakerphone, her expression unchanged. "I originally planned to travel with you in a few days, but it seems that won't be possible now." Joseph instantly breathed a sigh of relief and stepped forward to shield her. "Giselle, are you feeling better?" Giselle instinctively tried to avoid his gesture, but Joseph held her even tighter, so she lowered her eyes and said coldly, "Isabella, is she all right?" "She's fine." Joseph looked at her cautiously. "Giselle, are you angry?" At that time, everything happened too suddenly. "I didn't see clearly and just grabbed her hand, but I actually meant to save you." Giselle couldn't help finding it somewhat amusing, but she merely responded with a faint "oh." Joseph felt uncertain. "Let me explain." Isabella suddenly rushed in with reddened eyes. "Mr. Joseph, my ears hurt so bad." Joseph immediately stood up. "What happened? Where are the doctors?" "Get your asses over here now." Isabella's ears suddenly began streaming with bright red blood. Joseph immediately scooped her up in his arms and dashed down the hallway like a madman. Soon, Isabella's condition was brought under control, but he stayed by Isabella's side the entire night. Giselle was so unbearably hungry that night, she wanted to sneak downstairs to the hospital cafeteria for some food, but unexpectedly passed by Isabella's hospital room. Joseph was keeping watch by Isabella's bedside, treating her with utmost tenderness. "Is your ear feeling better?" "Much better," Isabella replied with slightly reddened eyes, clutching his hand pitifully. "Joseph honey, this whole incident was my fault. I shouldn't have appeared at your and Giselle's home, given my special status. That's precisely why she would." "Don't talk nonsense," Joseph whispered. "Stay here peacefully. Legally speaking, you're my rightful wife. You were always the true mistress of this household." Giselle felt as if she'd suddenly plunged into an ice cellar, her face pale. She stared at the retreating figures of the two, suddenly noticing that Isabella's wrist now bore a red protective charm. "You've been having a rough time lately. This charm has been with me for many years. It's very effective. You should wear it for now." Giselle felt her legs weaken, nearly losing her balance as she almost collapsed. Once upon a time, Joseph knelt through 3,000 steps to pray for her safety charm in pursuit of her. Later, to repay this deep affection, Giselle also knelt through 3,000 steps and obtained another safety charm. Joseph once joked, "Doesn't this count as our love token, our first couple's item after getting together?" Yet now, he's given that couple's item to another woman. Giselle leaned against the cold wall and let out a chilling laugh. Then she tore off the protective talisman from her wrist and threw it straight into the trash bin. Joseph had accompanied Isabella for a full day and night. It wasn't until dusk the next day that he finally arrived, his face clouded with gloom. Joseph stood at the doorway, half his face shrouded in shadow. From the darkness, he almost demanded. Isabella's cochlea was found to contain significant traces of lead and mercury. Someone deliberately sprinkled heavy metals on it, causing secondary damage to her ears. Her deafness has worsened, and she'll likely need cochlear implants for the rest of her life. Gazelle locked eyes with Joseph, suddenly realizing something. You're doubting me. Joseph averted his gaze. Gazelle, I don't want to doubt you, but the cochlear implant was indeed found in your wardrobe. Gazelle couldn't help but laugh. So Joseph, you don't trust me. Joseph had once sworn that even if he doubted everyone in the world, he would never doubt her. Gazelle. Gazelle lost the strength to explain and said calmly, think whatever you want. Joseph took her silence as admission. A flicker of disappointment flashing in his eyes. Gazelle, how could you? Gazelle lowered her head and said nothing. The two remained locked in this stalemate for a full 3 minutes. In the end, Joseph, as he always did in every previous instance, was the first to admit defeat and soften. He walked over to Gazelle's side and said helplessly, Gazelle, I'm happy that you're jealous of me because of Isabella. It shows you care about me, no matter how angry you are. You shouldn't have joked about her ears. You know perfectly well she only lost them because she was trying to save me. Joseph squatted down halfway, took Gazelle's hand, and said indulgently, stop being stubborn. You were clearly in the wrong here. I know how headstrong you are. You'd never willingly apologize to her. So how about this? She's been asking me for a favor lately. Let's help her out as our way of making amends. All right. Gazelle looked at him calmly, her tone flat. What is it? Joseph said, she's pregnant. Gazelle froze momentarily, staring at Joseph in near stupefaction. Joseph couldn't bring himself to meet her gaze, continuing instead, at first, I thought of sending her back to your uncle's place once your injury's healed, but you know how it is, she's now my aunt by marriage, and your uncle is a vegetable, there's no way they could, so if the family finds out she's pregnant, they'll never let her off easy. Let her stay with us for the coming year. At least until she safely delivers the baby. Gazelle finally couldn't hold back and interrupted him. And after the baby is born, what then? Do you even know who the father is? Will the child be acknowledged by its paternal family? Gazelle fired 4 consecutive questions, making Joseph's expression instantly turn unnatural. He paused before continuing. Let's temporarily raise the child under our name, making it legitimate, when the time comes. You can pretend to be pregnant and say she came to take care of you during your pregnancy. Gazelle laughed in exasperation. What if the child's father comes looking for us? Joseph grew somewhat impatient. He won't. Gazelle stared at him, thinking of course he wouldn't. After all, he was the child's father. Not only did he bring his mistress and her son under her nose, forcing her to take care of them, he even demanded that the mistress's son call her mom for the rest of his life. Why bother? The name on the marriage certificate was always Isabella's. She might as well leave early and let their little family of 3 be together legitimately. Gazelle couldn't even be bothered to exchange more words with him. After letting out 2 short laughs, she said directly, fine. Joseph froze in place. You're agreeing? Gazelle closed her eyes. I want to rest now. Get out. Seeing her indifferent reaction, Joseph was slightly taken aback. Something felt off. But a frantic knocking sounded at the door as the nurse shouted outside, Mr. Steward, your wife just said she has stomach pains. Joseph immediately turned around. Gazelle, I'll go check it out. Call me if you need anything. For the next 3 days, Joseph didn't visit Gazelle even once, perhaps out of guilt. He bought Gazelle 10 properties in one go and sent 999 roses to her hospital room every day. The nurses couldn't hide their envy. MS. Gazelle, your husband treats you so well. That MS. Isabella too. Mr. Steward spoils her rotten. You sisters are truly blessed. Gazelle just smiled without saying a word. Finally, the day came for her hospital discharge. The Joseph who promised to pick her up was absent again. He said he had something very important to do. Who would have thought Gazelle would scroll past Isabella's social media post showing them shopping for baby clothes together? Gazelle said nothing and simply hailed a cab, yet just as she was about to get in the car, a sudden heavy blow struck the back of her head. Everything went black. Gazelle fainted straight away. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself blindfolded, gagged, and tied up in a burlap sack. Isabella's voice rang in her ears. Joseph honey, I never should have moved into your and Gazelle's home. She never liked me to begin with. How could she possibly accept my child as her own son? I just never imagined she'd agree to your face while secretly hiring a psychopath to harm me behind your back. Though the baby is safe for now, the doctor says I'll need to take massive doses of medication to keep it. If anything happens to this child, I'd rather die. Span. Isabella, calm down. Joseph took a deep breath, his voice icy. How dare you harm my son Joseph? You deserve to die. With a bang, a tremendous force suddenly stomped on Gazelle's abdomen. The pain made her whole body tremble as she tightly curled into herself. She opened her mouth, but not a single sound escaped. Throw them into the water, but don't kill them. With a splash, the water completely submerged Gazelle's head. The next second, an intensely pungent sensation exploded across every inch of her body. This turned out to be no ordinary water. It was chili pepper water. Gazelle felt her lungs burning as if on fire, the pain so intense she thought she might die, in her ears. Joseph's gentle voice was directed at another woman. Isabella, don't be afraid, no matter what happens, I'll protect you, as my Joseph's wife, I won't allow anyone to bully you, Isabella couldn't help but say. But if Gazelle finds out, Joseph spoke calmly, don't worry, with me here, nothing will happen. Gazelle will never know in this lifetime. Gazelle opened her mouth, the struggle to call for help suddenly going limp. She closed her eyes, trembling with exhaustion. Letting the pepper water wash over her internal organs countless times, completely rebirthing her. After who knows how long, she was finally thrown into the outskirts like a dead fish. Struggling to take out her phone, she was surprised to see Joseph's message. Gazelle, for our anniversary tonight, let's just stay home. Okay, I can't wait to see the gift you've prepared for me, Gazelle calmly replied. Okay, I'm also looking forward to seeing your reaction to the gift. Gazelle did not go home, but instead went to the private hospital where Regan was staying. Using the pre-arranged documents she had prepared, she smoothly transferred Regan to another hospital, boarded an ambulance, and then headed straight for the airport. After successfully boarding the plane, Gazelle sent a text message directly to Joseph. Joseph, the gift I prepared for you is in the desk drawer. You can open it now. It contains all my secrets from all these years. I won't be coming back tonight. I'm running away with my husband. Great, I'm really looking forward to seeing your reaction to the gift. Seeing Gazelle's reply, Joseph let out a sigh of relief. Beside him, Isabella smiled and said, Gazelle replied to you. Now you can relax, right? I told you nothing was wrong. You're just too concerned about her, that's why you keep imagining things. Joseph gave an acknowledging him, picked up the suit jacket beside him, and stood up to put it on. Tonight is mine and Gazelle's wedding anniversary. I promised her long ago that I'd spend it with her. I can't miss it. Rest well. If you need anything, just tell Auntie Lee, she'll take care of you. Joseph hadn't even finished speaking when Isabella suddenly grabbed the hem of his jacket. Isabella blushed slightly with teary eyes and said plaintively, but it's only noon now, even if you go back now, Gazelle won't be home anyway, waiting would be pointless. Can't you stay with me a little longer? Isabella lowered her head, stroking her belly dejectedly. The baby got frightened too. He wants his daddy to stay with him. Joseph glanced at his wristwatch. It was indeed still early. No longer hesitating, he pulled Isabella into his arms. All right. How would you like me to accompany you? Let's watch a movie, Isabella said excitedly. Joseph honey, there's milk in the fridge, I'd like some. Could you warm it up for me? Sure, Joseph replied, taking out his phone, intending to send another message to Gazelle, only to find his phone had run out of battery. He casually tossed his phone to Isabella for charging and got up to head to the kitchen, completely unaware. Isabella's innocent face momentarily twisted with a flash of venomous jealousy. After the phone rebooted, she quickly tapped on the unread message. Upon realizing it was from Gazelle, Isabella promptly chose to delete it. Joseph was completely unaware that anything was amiss. When he returned, he asked her, "Did you charge it?" "It's charged." Isabella nodded slightly and nestled into his arms. "Don't worry, Joseph honey, even after watching this movie, there'll still be plenty of time." Joseph patiently started watching the movie, yet for some reason, he felt restless the entire afternoon. By evening, Joseph was about to leave when Isabella suddenly clutched her abdomen, her face pale. "Joseph honey, my stomach hurts so bad. Is the baby really not going to make it?" Joseph immediately called an ambulance. On the way to the hospital, he quickly texted Gazelle. "Gazelle, I might be late. Isabella isn't feeling well, I'm taking her to the hospital." Gazelle didn't reply. A sense of foreboding flashed through his mind, and Joseph immediately called her. The cold female voice rang out. "Sorry, the number you have dialed is powered off," Isabella said hoarsely. "Joseph honey, is Gazelle angry with me? Today was supposed to be your wedding anniversary, yet you're here taking care of me. It's only natural she'd be upset. Forget it, you should go back first. I'll be fine. Please don't let this come between you two because of me." Joseph was fuming because of Isabella's words. What kind of time is this? Gazelle, how can you still be so willful? It really was because he had spoiled her rotten all along that she became this arrogant from being pampered. Joseph averted his gaze. "I'll accompany you." This accompaniment lasted until dawn. Isabella, after her condition stabilized, Joseph finally floored the accelerator and raced back to the villa at top speed. He pushed the door open, his brow furrowed tightly. "Gazelle, come out for a moment, there's something I need to tell you." But what greeted him was only an empty, silent room. Joseph responded with thinly veiled anger. "Gazelle, finally." The door to the maid's room was pushed open, and the servant answered drowsily, "Mr. Joseph, the madam isn't here. She hasn't returned for several days now." Joseph's expression darkened slightly as his entire body stiffened. What did you say? The servant repeated. Madam hasn't come back these past few days. That ominous premonition which had persisted for so long, yet was forcibly suppressed by Joseph, suddenly erupted at this moment. She hasn't come back at all. How is that possible? Joseph widened his eyes. Today is mine and Gazelle's wedding anniversary. We agreed to celebrate at home. Didn't she come back early to prepare? Seeing the servant's resolute headshake, Joseph immediately panicked. He quickly turned around and rushed upstairs to the master bedroom in near disarray. Refusing to believe it, he decided to see for himself what was going on. Pushing the door open, the once fully furnished room now appeared startlingly empty. Joseph was taken aback. Gazelle, when had she cleared out the room, as if she would never return, overwhelmed by immense panic. Joseph collapsed weakly at the foot of the bed and called Gazelle again, but her phone remained switched off. He could only keep sending her text messages. Gazelle, didn't you return to the villa? Didn't we agree to spend our anniversary together? Where are you? Gazelle, don't scare me like this. Reply the moment you see this message. I'm worried sick. Joseph paced anxiously in circles, yet couldn't get Gazelle to respond no matter what, until Isabella's call suddenly came through. Mr. Joseph. What present did Gazelle prepare for you? Joseph said with a tight voice. I can't find her anymore. Isabella instantly exclaimed. How could this be? Gazelle, my little sister. Isabella hesitated. Could it be that you came back too late again, and Gazelle got angry on purpose, hiding where you can't find her? Mr. Joseph, it's all my fault. If only I hadn't had that stomachache back then I wouldn't have delayed your anniversary with Gazelle. Isabella's soft sobs only stoked the uncontrollable fury burning in Joseph's heart. He pressed his temples, his gaze gradually growing profound. Yeah, with Gazelle's personality. She might have deliberately hidden it, his late, and she won't show up at all. Joseph forced himself to patiently brush off Isabella with a few words. It's none of your concern, get some rest. Then he abruptly hung up the phone. Then, Joseph ordered his assistant to locate Gazelle's whereabouts. No matter where she is, bring her back immediately. The assistant hesitated before speaking. But what if Madam refuses to come with us? Joseph darkened his expression. Then ensure her safety and bring her back by force if necessary. Joseph always believed that Gazelle was just being petty, because he had stood her up on their wedding anniversary, so she deliberately used this method to get back at him. In Joseph's mind, there couldn't possibly be any other explanation. Until he suddenly remembered Gazelle's gift prepared for him that day, a handmade notebook. Joseph began rummaging through boxes and cabinets for that handmade notebook. Finally, he found it in the desk drawer, though in low spirits. The thought of Gazelle having carefully prepared this gift for him lifted Joseph's mood somewhat. He flipped open the cover directly, but his gaze froze abruptly on the small line of text on the title page. To the love of my life, Regan. Joseph could hardly believe his eyes. He stared in disbelief at the small line of text on the title page, confirming it was unmistakably Gazelle's handwriting. But why would her beloved write the name Regan? Joseph's breathing grew shallow as his trembling hands turned to the second page. June 7th, sunny. Today is the 33rd day since I met Regan. Joseph invited me to visit his home. I didn't want to go at all, but thinking I could see him, I agreed. He was still very kind and gentle to me. But that gentleness belonged to an elder. August 6th, heavy rain. Regan was in an accident, a car crash. When he was rushed into the emergency room, I didn't even have the right to stay by his side. He became a vegetable, and I so wanted to say I could take care of him, but what right did I have? October 1st, sunny. Lately I've suddenly been thinking, if I'm with Joseph, would it naturally follow that I could take care of Regan's lower body? It doesn't matter even if he never knows I love him. He doesn't need to know either. Seeing this, Joseph turned pale and gasped sharply. He stared at the diary with near-trembling horror, then suddenly let out a low roar like a madman, tearing the diary into countless shreds. How could this be? Did his Gazelle only choose to be with him because of Regan? No, impossible. This must be fake. The sharp ringtone shattered the deathly silence in the room. Joseph gasped as he answered the call. Mr. Joseph. We've traced Madam's last known location to that private hospital where your brother-in-law is. But Madam, before the assistant could finish, Joseph hung up and rushed out. A 1-hour drive was Joseph cut down to just half an hour by pushing the limits. Upon arrival, Joseph kicked open the door to Regan's hospital room and growled. Gazelle, what did you mean by what you wrote in that diary? You lied to me, didn't you? There's no way you were only with me because of my uncle, you. But the room held only his bewildered assistant and a startled nurse. The hospital bed was completely empty. Joseph's mind exploded with a deafening buzz in his ears, nearly making him lose his balance. Where is she? The assistant spoke cautiously. Madam left with Mr. Regan. What do you mean? Joseph grabbed his assistant by the collar and shoved him backward violently. You're saying Gazelle took my uncle? How is that possible? What right does she have to take him? A nurse nearby quickly handed a document to Joseph. This is the marriage certificate provided to us by Ms. Gazelle. She is Regan's wife. Legally speaking, she has every right to take Mr. Stewart with her. Ms. Gazelle left a message for you before she departed. She said she never loved you, and asked you not to look for her anymore. She has already left with her husband for a place where no one can find them. Joseph clutched the stamped document. His vision suddenly clouded by a crimson haze. Immediately, a needle-like pain began to throb densely in his chest. Joseph felt as if his body had been torn open. An overwhelming agony engulfed him completely. Never loved. Gazelle actually said she had never loved him. Were all those past promises and beautiful moments just lies? Joseph could no longer stand, collapsing to the ground in utter defeat. The proof was crumpled in his grip, soon dampened by sweat. The assistant's voice sounded distant and near. Mr. Joseph, are you all right, Mr. Joseph? In the last second before fainting, Joseph nearly roared out, "Go find Gazelle and bring her back to me. In this lifetime, she's not allowed to go anywhere except by my side." When I opened my eyes again, the sharp scent of disinfectant filled my nostrils. Joseph almost believed he'd been trapped in a nightmare, so he reached out directly, calling out the name that had haunted his dreams with a hoarse voice, Gazelle. But only silence answered him in the empty room. Soon, the door was pushed open, a sliver of light spilling in from the corridor. Joseph looked up only to meet Isabella's worried face. "Joseph, honey, you're finally awake." Isabella quickly set aside the meal she had prepared and helped him sit up. "You scared me to death. The doctor said you fainted because of sudden emotional turmoil." Joseph closed his eyes, his Adam's apple bobbing as he interrupted her with visible irritation. "How is it you, Gazelle? Still not found?" Isabella paused slightly, a flash of jealousy crossing her eyes as her voice lowered. "Still searching." Joseph let out a heavy sigh, pressing his temples wearily. Isabella carefully continued speaking. "Joseph, honey, why are you so determined to find Gazelle's sister?" Joseph paused slightly. "What do you mean? I've heard everything." Isabella let out a bitter laugh. "So it turns out little sister Gazelle married you just for Regan. This way, you don't have to worry about hurting little sister Gazelle anymore, since the one she loves isn't you. Speaking of which, Joseph, honey, you actually did a good deed. Little sister Gazelle should be thanking you. If you hadn't swapped her name with mine on the marriage certificate, little sister Gazelle probably wouldn't have been able to take Regan away and elope with him in this lifetime." She nestled into Joseph's arms. "Joseph, honey, little sister Gazelle should be thanking you. It was you who made it possible for her." A sharp pain suddenly exploded from Isabella's neck, her eyes widening in shock as she stared at Joseph. His crimson eyes burned with madness, veins bulging on the hands that mercilessly tightened around her throat. Isabella writhed in agony, but with her windpipe crushed, not a sound could escape, and Joseph only smiled coldly. "Isabella, I remember reminding you that my blatant love is reserved only for my Gazelle. Do you really think I'd let her leave me just like that? Remember your place. No matter what her feelings for me are, in the eyes of the world, she is and always will be the only Mrs. Stewart." Joseph released his grip, and Isabella fell heavily to the ground. Her face turned deathly pale as she lowered her head, a flash of venomous resentment flickering in her eyes. "Get out." Joseph pressed his temples, a trace of irritation rising in his eyes. "Until we find Gazelle, you'll stay at the villa. You can move out after she returns." Isabella widened her eyes. "You're kicking me out?" Joseph glanced at her coldly. "Yes, once Gazelle returns, we'll change the name on the marriage certificate." Isabella instantly turned deathly pale. Joseph continued speaking as if he hadn't noticed. "If you want to divorce your uncle, I can also help you find other solutions. Your ears, I owe you for that. Whatever amount you want, just tell me, and I'll make it up to you." "I don't want it," Isabella cried out. "Joseph, honey, I just want to stay by your side." "No," Joseph said firmly. "Gazelle has already found out about the marriage certificate, so she probably knows I registered with you back then. Any obstacle that could affect my reconciliation with her must be removed. You must not stay by my side any longer." Joseph pushed Isabella out directly. A door also completely shut out Isabella's eyes full of resentment and jealousy. The next day, Joseph was awakened by his assistant's urgent phone call. He had tossed and turned all night, getting less than 2 hours of sleep, and answered the phone in utter exhaustion, his voice heavy with tension. "Have they been found?" The assistant gasped for breath. "Mr. Joseph, it's terrible. Have you seen the trending topics? Your relationship with Ms. Isabella has been exposed." Joseph bolted upright. "What did you say?" He opened the social media platform at lightning speed. To his shock, his name was trending at the top of the hot searches. #exposed. Stewart family heir Joseph's wife is someone else #Joseph Gazelle Isabella #. Scrolling through the entire list, The trending topics were almost completely dominated by this incident, and in the discussions, netizens' comments were in complete uproar. I've been wanting to say this. Does such a perfect man really exist in this world? Obviously not. Now the truth is finally out. Turns out he gave his love to Giselle and his identity to Isabella. A few days ago, I heard Giselle went missing, and Joseph was frantically searching for her everywhere. At the time, I thought she was ungrateful for not wanting such a great guy. Now I finally understand. Whoever wants him can have him. Am I the only one noticing this suddenly appearing Isabella? So she's the real Mrs. Stewart. Here's another bombshell. Seems this Ms. Isabella is already pregnant. Isn't the Stewart family about to announce their new Mrs. Stewart? After all, there's already a child. Joseph's expression grew increasingly darker as he read on. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and hurled his phone violently against the wall. With a loud bang, the flying phone struck Isabella squarely on the forehead as she opened the door. A large bump quickly swelled on her head. Isabella looked utterly panicked. Mr. Joseph, please don't be angry. What's going on with the trending topic? How did this suddenly get exposed? She cautiously speculated. Could it be that Giselle is still holding a grudge and deliberately had someone expose this matter? Joseph felt his heart suddenly sink, and right at that moment, the assistant's message came through perfectly timed. Mr. Joseph, we've located the IP. It's in the villa study. The maid said the only person who's used the villa study computer these past few days seems to be Ms. Isabella. In addition, I've found some other information here, which I've compiled and sent to you. Isabella continued speaking. Giselle seems truly determined to fight to the bitter end. Mr. Joseph, even if you do manage to bring her back, I'm afraid it would be utterly meaningless. Rather than that, why not go along with the scheme and let you rightfully become Mrs. Stewart? Is that it? Joseph let out a cold laugh, cutting off Isabella mid-sentence. Isabella stiffened, her voice tight. That's not what I meant either. But when she cautiously looked up and met Joseph's gaze, she instantly froze in terror, for Joseph's dark eyes burned crimson like a demon from the depths of hell, fixed upon her. The next moment, Joseph reached out and violently seized Isabella by the throat. Isabella let out a scream. Mr. Joseph. Joseph lifted her entire body and slammed her violently to the ground. Isabella, I've always found it strange. Everything was fine before. How did Giselle suddenly discover the issue with the marriage certificate? Isabella looked up in shock. It wasn't me. I really didn't. Fine. If this isn't you, then what about this? Joseph expressionlessly held his phone in front of Isabella. In the footage, Isabella had deliberately switched the meat buns. She had hidden her cochlear implant in Giselle's wardrobe beforehand. She even sawed half of the wardrobe so it would collapse when Giselle rummaged through it. As for the so-called incident of a mentally ill person harming the child, it was entirely Isabella's own fabrication. To vent his anger for Isabella, he hired someone to kidnap and punish the so-called mentally ill person, but to his utter shock, after he left, the person in the sack was repeatedly submerged in chilly water and tortured. When the sack was finally opened, what appeared was Giselle's pale and desperate face. Joseph ached so much that even breathing hurt. In the footage, the man Isabella hired was chatting. Is the person still alive? Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. She won't die, just making her suffer a little. Ms. Isabella said she'd pay us double as long as we torture her to the brink of death without actually killing her. How dare I let her die? She's our golden goose. Their arrogant laughter reached Joseph's ears, instantly shattering all his remaining reason. Bang! With bloodshot eyes, Joseph violently kicked Isabella with his foot. She fell backward hard, letting out a desperate scream. My child, my baby. Joseph honey, have you forgotten? I'm still carrying your child. How could you do this to it? Since I am the child's mother, I am rightfully Mrs. Stewart. Joseph, how could you treat me like this? She trembled in terror as a pool of blood gradually spread beneath her. Joseph merely watched her indifferently before finally speaking calmly. Isabella, any woman can bear my child, if I so desire. What kind of thing do you think you are? You've brought my Giselle to this state. You deserve to die. Not even your child can protect you now. The door swung open as the assistant entered with 2 bodyguards, who immediately dragged Isabella out. In the days that followed, Joseph seemed to lose his mind. Scouring the world for any trace of Giselle, he completely ignored even the netizens, to the extent that the Stewart family's stock price plummeted dramatically within just half a month. Joseph endured pressure from within the Stewart family, never slacking in his efforts to find Giselle. Yet no matter how desperately he tried, there was not the slightest trace of progress. Joseph was being driven mad. The mere thought of Giselle being with Regan right now filled Joseph with uncontrollable rage and jealousy. He was nearly driven mad by the flames of envy. After another fruitless day of searching, Joseph swept everything off the table and issued an ultimatum. I'm giving you one final day. If you still can't find any leads, you can all go fuck yourselves, Joseph roared, instantly making everyone in the room tremble with fear. Amid the spreading silence, someone suddenly spoke up cautiously. Mr. Joseph, maybe we should try a different approach. Speak. Madam's information must have been deliberately concealed, but Mr. Steward's details wouldn't be so easy to hide. After all, he's a vegetable who requires hospitalization, and hospital admissions always leave records. Perhaps. What are you standing around for? Joseph growled. Get moving and investigate. The crowd scattered instantly, and Joseph finally collapsed backward in exhaustion. Before him lay Gazelle's handmade notebook. He had originally torn it to pieces, but in a fit of madness, he spent 3 days and nights painstakingly reassembling every single page. Then, he sought out a handwriting analysis. The results confirmed that these words weren't written years ago as he'd thought, they were recent additions. A bold conjecture flickered in Joseph's mind. Gazelle never loved Regan at all. She forged this notebook specifically to retaliate for his betrayal. If this were true, Joseph wouldn't be angry, he'd feel exhilarated, for it meant Gazelle still cared about him. The thought of this possibility Joseph left him too excited to sleep once again, until the night passed, and dawn broke. Sunlight streaming through the window cracks, Joseph lifted his dazed eyes and instinctively asked, Gazelle, what would you like for breakfast? After asking, there was no response. A wave of desolation surged from his chest, nearly overwhelming him. Joseph was almost drowned in this clinging, maggot-like longing. Finally, the phone's ringtone shattered the silence. Joseph immediately answered his assistant's call. Mr. Joseph, MS. Isabella has had a miscarriage. Joseph pressed his temples. Understood. There's no need to report her matters to me anymore. Regan, any leads on his whereabouts? The assistant nodded slightly. We've traced Mr. Steward to a private hospital in Country C. Rumor has it there's indeed a young woman accompanying him. Joseph abruptly stood up. Book me a flight to Country C immediately. The earliest available, Country C. The caregiver's text arrived punctually at 8 a.m. MS. Gazelle, Mr. Steward has been in fairly good condition these past few days. As you instructed, I've bathed him and checked. There are no bed sores or similar ailments. Gazelle replied with an okay emoji and took a casual sip of coffee. Across from her, Gazelle's mom frowned deeply. No matter what, Regan is a member of the Steward family. If you take her away and the stewards really come knocking, how will you explain it? There's nothing to explain, Gazelle said. I'm his rightful wife. Even if they need to pull the plug, I'm the one who has to sign for it. Let alone the fact that I brought him here for his own good, to treat his illness. Gazelle's mom sighed. Come on, he's been hospitalized for half a month, and you haven't visited him once. Oh, all right, Gazelle said, utterly defenseless against her own mother and resorting to playful stalling. I'll go see him today. Okay, happy now. Gazelle had originally intended to brush it off, as she currently held no favorable opinion of the Steward family, yet unexpectedly, Gazelle's mom took the matter to heart. After finishing breakfast, she directly picked up her small bag and waved her hand with an imposing air. Let's go. Gazelle froze. Where to? I knew you were lying to me. Gazelle's mom glared at her sharply. Didn't you say you were going to see Regan today? Gazelle suddenly understood. Right, let's go. An hour later, the two successfully arrived at a private hospital located in the suburbs. This hospital is the most expensive private hospital in Country C, where nearly all of the country's best medical resources are concentrated. Gazelle only learned after arriving that Regan's condition wasn't entirely hopeless for recovery. As for why the Steward family refused to treat him, whether the reasons were true or false, Gazelle couldn't be bothered to find out. No matter what, she was the one who had essentially kidnapped Regan, so she had to take responsibility for him. So Gazelle directly prepaid a year's worth of treatment fees to give Regan the best possible care. Gazelle had just entered the ward when the caregiver immediately stood up. MS. Gazelle, you're here. I was just about to call you. Gazelle placed the flowers to one side. What's wrong? Is something the matter? You told me before to inform you promptly if anything unusual happened, didn't you? This morning, I suddenly noticed someone inquiring about Mr. Steward. And they also asked some questions about me. Seemed to be a Chinese person. The nurse took out her phone while speaking. I had someone pull up the surveillance footage. Take a look at this person. Do you recognize them? Gazelle looked at the photo on the phone. That face was actually unfamiliar, but Gazelle recognized it at a glance. This was Joseph's man. He's found us. Gazelle immediately turned to leave. Where do I go to transfer hospitals? Hearing this, Gazelle's mom exploded. Transfer hospitals? What do you mean transfer? Didn't Regan just get moved here? Why are you tormenting a vegetative patient like this? Gazelle looked pale. Mom, I don't just need to transfer hospitals. I need to leave this place. Quickly book 2 international tickets for me. Anywhere will do. Her panic was visibly escalating. So much so that Giselle's mom placed a concerned hand on her arm, her face etched with worry. Whatever's going on. You have to tell me first before I can figure out how to handle it, right? Giselle let out a heavy sigh. Joseph's people have tracked me down. I thought after seeing that diary, he'd stop looking for me. That's why I only hid my own information. I never imagined he'd still be searching. I must leave this place immediately. There's no way I can let Joseph find me, Giselle declared with finality. Giselle's mom also immediately showed a change in expression. Although she didn't agree with Giselle's petulant behavior, she genuinely didn't want to confront that demon Joseph either. After all, back then, Joseph had caused quite a scandal chasing after Giselle, yet neither she nor Giselle's dad approved of Giselle getting involved with Joseph. They only wished for their daughter to live an ordinary life, growing old together with someone she truly loved. The Stewart family held immense power, and Joseph was a complete madman. Though he deeply loved Giselle at the time, who could guarantee he wouldn't change his heart later? And indeed, everything they had feared had now become reality. Giselle's mom refused to let Giselle sink back into the mire, so she made a swift decision. You go handle the hospital transfer first. I'll arrange transportation immediately to take Regan away. The two acted quickly. But unexpectedly, they couldn't reach any other private hospitals abroad for quite some time. As for Regan's situation, keeping him in a hotel indefinitely was absolutely not an appropriate solution. After much deliberation, Giselle's dad finally made the decision. Let's bring him to our house first. I disagree. Giselle immediately jumped up and protested loudly. No matter what, Regan is still a member of the Stewart family, even though he's in a vegetative state now. What if he wakes up someday? Besides, having a strange man live in our house isn't really appropriate, is it? Giselle's mom also looked conflicted. It's true, no matter how you look at it, his loyalties lie with the Stewart family, right? He's like a ticking time bomb that could go off at any moment. If he secretly contacts the Stewart family, no matter what, the person was secretly taken out. Leaving aside Joseph, the entire Stewart family won't let this go easily. The three exchanged glances, yet none could make the final decision. The driver in the front seat was already urging them. So folks, have you decided? Where exactly are we going? Amidst the spreading silence, a hoarse male voice suddenly spoke up. Let's just go home. Giselle thought it was Giselle's dad who had spoken and quickly objected. No, what if Regan wakes up? I won't tell. An unfamiliar male voice interrupted Giselle, speaking calmly. Don't worry. I have absolutely no desire to go back either. Giselle finally realized something. She turned her head stiffly, locking eyes with Regan lying on the gurney. Then came a scream of utter terror. Regan was awake. This vegetative patient who had lain in bed for so many years had actually woken up. When she regained her composure, Giselle was filled with nothing but shock. When did you wake up? How much did you hear? Regan closed her eyes wearily, her tone indifferent. I know everything. There's no need for you to hide it anymore. On the way you brought me here from our country, you accidentally knocked my head against the wall. Regan forced a mocking sneer. I was conscious the whole time, just unable to open my eyes. Giselle suddenly felt somewhat awkward. I'm sorry. I was just so angry at the time that I came up with this elopement idea and dragged you to this place. It's nothing. I should be thanking you, Regan said. If it weren't for you, I might still be unconscious right now. Seeing the self-deprecation in Regan's eyes, Giselle felt uncertain and uneasy. What do you mean? Then what do you plan to do? Do you need me to find someone to take you back to the Stewart family? Regan shook her head. I can't go back. Someone in the Stewart family is trying to harm me. Giselle widened her eyes in shock. What? Giselle, since you've saved me, you might as well see it through to the end. What's more, we're legally married now. Could you do me one more favor? A sense of foreboding rose in her heart. Giselle swallowed hard, glanced at her parents, then hesitantly asked, what is it? Could you take me in temporarily? Regan said. I have nowhere to go. I'd like to stay at your place for a while. Giselle was still hesitating when Giselle's mom instructed the driver. Take us to this address. It was unmistakably their home address. Giselle's dad, Giselle's mom, had painstakingly built their business in Country C over many years. While not as fabulously wealthy as the Stewart family, they were at least comfortably well off, having purchased a villa in the southern district that could easily accommodate a Regan with room to spare. After settling smoothly into the villa, he lay on the bed when suddenly his stomach began to growl. Giselle froze in place, staring at him for a long moment. You're hungry? I suppose so. Regan averted his gaze somewhat awkwardly. I've only been on 4 fluids before. Didn't they just take it out? Giselle looked at him, noticing the tips of his ears peeking through his shoulder-length hair were faintly tinged with red. Giselle suddenly thought this vegetative uncle of hers seemed rather endearing. She hadn't actually interacted much with Regan before, only knowing him as a rather stern elder during conversations. Looking at him now, I realized that despite being gaunt to the point of looking almost unrecognizable, his sharply defined handsome features were still evident. Ahem, Gazelle averted her gaze. You should rest for now, I'll go prepare something for you to eat. Gazelle couldn't cook, so she entrusted the task to the family housekeeper, specifically requesting a finely minced porridge that would be easy to swallow. She had researched online beforehand that in Regan's condition, only liquid foods were advisable. After giving instructions, Gazelle grabbed a pair of scissors and went upstairs. Regan had already gotten out of bed. He pushed open the window, and the breeze outside swept over him, carrying the faint scent of gardenias. Hearing the noise, he quickly turned his head. Who's there? It's me. Gazelle raised the scissors. I noticed your hair was getting long and thought I'd trim it for you. Regan didn't refuse. He was exceptionally well-behaved and obedient, letting others have their way with him. Fine strands of hair tickled Regan's neck, making it itch slightly. Gazelle subconsciously blew a puff of air, trying to dislodge the stray hairs. Regan's body suddenly stiffened. The moment their eyes met, an unspoken tension began to quietly simmer between them, until Gazelle's mom pushed the door open. Gazelle, just as we expected, Joseph has come looking for us. The hospital nurse just called me, asking if I knew someone named Joseph. Mr. Stewart. She held up her phone excitedly, but froze instantly upon seeing Regan and Gazelle's movements. Gazelle's mom quickly slammed the door shut with a bang. I didn't see anything. Gazelle instantly straightened up. An awkward atmosphere lingered in the room for several seconds before Gazelle finally couldn't hold back and let out a sudden fut of laughter. Regan also pressed a hand to her forehead and burst out laughing. The atmosphere between the two instantly became more relaxed. Gazelle helped Regan cut her hair while curiously asking, so all these years, you've been conscious the whole time? Not exactly fully conscious, Regan explained. At first it was very hazy, but gradually I became more aware, though I could hear you speaking. I just couldn't wake up no matter what. I always thought it was strange, until I heard them say they'd added something extra to my medication. Regan couldn't suppress a bitter laugh. Even the accident I had back then, that was deliberately caused by them too. Gazelle startled slightly. Who is it? Regan whispered. My sister-in-law. Gazelle jerked her hand, accidentally snipping a small bald patch on Regan's head. Unaware, the other continued speaking. When my eldest brother died young, she, a woman alone raising a child like Joseph, probably feared having no support in the Stewart family. Back then, the old man favored me and wanted to make me the heir of the Stewart family. Once the Stewart family fell into my hands, Joseph would probably have no hope left. So that's why, Regan's eyes flashed with a mocking sneer, he imprisoned my soul within my body and locked me away in that private hospital. If it weren't for you, I might never have opened my eyes again in this lifetime. Gazelle looked at the small bald spot on the other person's head and suddenly felt a pang of guilt. You don't need to thank me. I had my own motives too. Finished trimming, Regan looked up at her and reached to rub the top of his head. Gazelle quickly blocked him. It looks really good. Regan looked at her suspiciously. Gazelle immediately blinked innocently. It really does look good. Then she turned and made a quick escape. A minute later, a helpless cry came from the room. Regan, Gazelle, you really? Gazelle dashed downstairs and ran into Gazelle's dad, Gazelle's mom, who were sitting stiffly in the living room. The two were staring at the all-too-familiar face on the phone screen. Joseph has gone mad, Gazelle's dad said. He must have found out we've hidden you away. He's cut off every single project our company has right now, using every means possible. Gazelle's mom let out a long, heavy sigh. His live streaming again. Take a look. Gazelle suppressed her smile and took the phone. Joseph has lost a noticeable amount of weight. His already sharply defined features now appear even more gaunt. One glance reveals he hasn't had proper sleep in ages. His eyes are webbed with red veins, dark circles bloom beneath them, and stubble shadows his unshaven face. He wears a wrinkled shirt that looks like it hasn't seen an iron in weeks. His gaze seemed to pierce through the screen and stare straight into Gazelle's heart. Gazelle, I miss you so much. I know you're angry with me. Otherwise you wouldn't have deliberately taken Uncle away and forged that ridiculous diary. Gazelle, I'm not stupid. I know you did this because you care about me, because you hate me. I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have crossed the line with Isabella. Come back, please. He looked as if he was sincerely admitting his mistake, but Gazelle knew better than anyone. This was Joseph's most frequently used tactic over all these years. He appeared to be the submissive one in this relationship, lowering himself into the dust. Yet in truth, he was the one who held the reins of this relationship. He said it was time to begin, so by any means necessary, they would begin. But when he said it was time to end, then Gazelle had no choice. It had to end. The only reason he's willing to apologize publicly now is that the moment he deems fit to end things hasn't yet arrived. Infidelity happens either 0 times or countless times, and Gazelle believes that if she goes back, she'll inevitably become that abandoned stray again one day, heartbroken and shattered. So after watching the live stream, Gazelle simply handed the phone back to Gazelle's dad with cold indifference. "So you're going to hand me over to the company?" "Absolutely not." Gazelle's dad instantly darkened his face. "Gazelle, in your heart, do you think your parents are the kind of people who would sell their daughter for personal gain?" Gazelle's mom teared up. "We're just worried. The Stewart family has immense power. You can't hide forever. Sooner or later, Joseph will find you. And what about Regan? Didn't he say the Stewart family wants to harm him? When Joseph comes knocking, what will you two do?" Gazelle closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and when she opened them again, there was nothing but determination in her gaze. "So, we absolutely cannot sit idly by and wait for death." Gazelle as she went upstairs. Regan was also watching the globally sensational live broadcast. Hearing the knock at the door, he didn't pause it, instead letting Joseph's voice continue to murmur beside his ear. "Miss Gazelle, did you need something?" Regan turned around, his chin slightly raised, his gaze profound. Gazelle noticed he had somehow found a notebook, densely filled with handwritten words, and in the bottom right corner were the 3 characters, Joseph. Gazelle couldn't help but curve her lips into a faint smile. "It seems Mr. Stewart shares the same idea as me." "Oh," Regan closed the notebook, raising an eyebrow slightly. "What do you mean? After your eldest brother passed away, the Stewart family inheritance should have rightfully gone to you, shouldn't it?" Gazelle said. "Not only did you fail to become the heir of the Stewart family, but you also spent years as a vegetable in a hospital bed. Anyone in your position wouldn't let it go so easily, would they?" "I can help you." Gazelle's eyes gleamed with a meaningful intensity. After a brief silence of a few seconds, Regan smiled faintly. "Why would you help me?" Gazelle's gaze involuntarily fell on the live-streaming computer screen nearby. "Helping you is helping myself. Joseph is currently receiving terrible public opinion due to those negative news. It's your best chance to secure the heir position," Gazelle said calmly. "I only have one request. Once you take the position as the heir of the Stewart family, don't make things difficult for me, and especially not for my parents. Deal?" Regan extended his hand and gave hers a light shake. Gazelle, what's your plan?" Gazelle smiled faintly. "Step 1. You'll need to keep playing the vegetable." The phone rang loudly. Joseph answered another unfamiliar call. On the other end, a strange man spoke with a hoarse voice. "Mr. Joseph, I saw Ms. Gazelle yesterday." Joseph stood up immediately. "Where?" The man provided an address and asked impatiently, "Does this count as providing a clue? Can the 100,000 yuan be transferred to my card now?" Joseph took a deep breath, lowered his eyelids, and asked, "What color and style of clothes was she wearing when you saw her?" The man was slightly taken aback, then hesitated before speaking. "I don't remember clearly. I think she was wearing a dress, probably blue." Joseph immediately pressed his temples in frustration and hung up the phone directly. Gazelle doesn't like wearing skirts. Unless it's a special occasion with specific requirements, she always wears pants. Finding them convenient, Joseph can easily determine whether these money-grabbing calls are genuine or fake. In reality, up to now, they've all been fake. No one knew Gazelle's exact whereabouts in Country C. These past few days, he practically turned Country C upside down searching for her. But Country C was, after all, not City J. No matter how powerful the Stewart family was, they couldn't create earth-shattering waves here. The only thing they could do was use live broadcasts to gather as many clues as possible. Yet the trail went cold at that hospital. No one knew where Gazelle had gone. Regan. Where on earth has he gone? The thought of his vegetative younger uncle, confined to a hospital bed, actually spending days and nights with Gazelle, Joseph was nearly driven mad with jealousy. He couldn't tolerate any other man by Gazelle's side, not even a vegetative one. Joseph, his eyes darkened abruptly as he swept everything off the coffee table with one hand, nearly growling. "Still no leads at all." "Gazelle's parents haven't contacted us either," the assistant replied cautiously. "No, we've already terminated all their company projects. They just need to let Madam meet with you once to restore everything. We've made that clear, but there's been no response from their side. Perhaps she really isn't with them after all. What are you all standing around for?" Joseph suddenly stood up, fury rising. "Get the hell out there and find her." The phone rang abruptly again. Joseph answered without looking, his tone ominous. "Where did you see Gazelle this time?" But there was a slight pause on the other end before Mrs. Stewart's cool voice came through. "Regan was brought to Central Hospital this morning." "What?" Joseph's breath hitched abruptly. "He's back." "Then what about Gazelle?" "Someone saw her at Central Hospital, paying a large upfront fee for Regan." Joseph sprang up violently, not even bothering to hang up his phone as he dashed madly toward the door. Go buy the soonest possible ticket back home, and hurry. Joseph spent a full 12 hours on the plane without closing his eyes for even a minute. His mind kept replaying those days spent with Gazelle. He had even planned exactly what to say to Gazelle the moment he saw her. It was nothing more than sincerely apologizing and begging for her forgiveness. But when that long-cherished face truly appeared before his eyes, Joseph suddenly felt a twinge of fear. Mr. Joseph, sir, madam, isn't that the madam? Even the assistant grew somewhat excited. Gazelle was buying steamed buns downstairs at the hospital. She stood sideways, appearing slightly fuller, dressed in a casual white t-shirt and curved leg pants. While waiting, she even made a phone call, never once turning to look in his direction. Joseph stood there dumbfounded, inexplicably asking his assistant, "Do you think she'll forgive me?" Joseph's voice was hoarse, his eyes bloodshot and rimmed with red. Hearing this, the assistant froze in disbelief as he stared at Joseph. This was the man who dominated the business world, who endured 99 lashes from his own father without a whimper, who didn't even blink when held at knife point during a kidnapping. Now, scared, so Joseph can feel fear too. The assistant pursed her lips and said cautiously, "I don't know either." Joseph suddenly turned around, rubbing his face irritably with visible unease. "I'm going to the South District first to buy a basket of soup dumplings, after sitting on a plane for over 10 hours. I must smell pretty bad. I'll go back, take a shower, change into some clean clothes, then come see her. Can't let my Gazelle get a whiff of this." With these words, he fled the scene as if escaping in panic. Not far away, Gazelle unexpectedly turned her head, her eyes shimmering with disbelief. Joseph just left like that. She had even prepared herself for him to pounce immediately, but he just walked away. Gazelle returned to the ward with the purchased buns, her mind unsettled. After confirming the curtains were drawn and the door was securely closed, she patted Regan's shoulder. "Get up and eat." The previously lying Regan with closed eyes immediately sat up. "Joseph hasn't returned yet." "He did," Gazelle said. "Just made a round downstairs and left again. No idea what's going on." "Perhaps it's the anxiety of nearing home," Regan said calmly. "But it's just as well his not coming saves disrupting our plans." Gazelle gave an acknowledging hum. "People were already inquiring about you this morning. I estimate they'll make their move by tomorrow at the latest." Regan didn't eat the steamed buns, just had some simple porridge before lying back down, speaking in a flat tone. "Perhaps we won't make it till tomorrow." Suddenly, knocking sounded at the door. The urgent, overwhelming knocking surged like towering waves, instantly transforming the room's tranquil atmosphere into one of tense unease. Gazelle casually grabbed a few tissues and wiped the crumbs from Regan's lips, whispering in a low voice, "Perform well, success or failure hinges on this moment." Then she stood up and opened the door. Mrs. Steward and 2 bodyguards stood at the doorway. When they saw Gazelle, the corners of their lips lifted slightly in a faint smile. "Gazelle, long time no see." Mrs. Steward clearly had ill intentions from the moment she appeared. She entered the hospital room with furrowed brows, her eyes slightly shifty. "You ate steamed buns?" "Yes," Gazelle replied smoothly. "I like steamed buns, so I went downstairs to buy some as soon as I woke up." Mrs. Steward blocked Gazelle's line of sight. "Mom thought you wouldn't come back. Who could have imagined you'd actually run off with a vegetative patient?" Mrs. Steward behind her, a bodyguard was prying open Regan's mouth, carefully sniffing for any trace of steamed bun aroma. Gazelle pretended not to notice, smiling faintly. "Auntie, Joseph and I aren't married anymore. It wouldn't be proper for me to address you as I used to." Mrs. Steward's eyes chilled slightly. The bodyguard behind her stood up and gave Mrs. Steward a slight shake of his head. Mrs. Steward visibly relaxed, her tone softening noticeably as she spoke. "The marriage certificate matter was Joseph's mistake, but you must understand, in our social circle, it's perfectly normal for men to have multiple partners. You can't expect Joseph to remain faithful to you alone. I can make Joseph apologize to you, and even promise that your name will forever be the only one on the marriage certificate. So, would you be willing to come back?" Gazelle shook her head gently. "Speaking of which, I should call you sister-in-law." "Sister-in-law." "I don't want to," Gazelle said. "I can't accept that everyone in this circle is like this, but I can change circles." With a thud, Gazelle heard something fall behind her. A familiar braised meat bun rolled to her feet. Following the trajectory of the sauce-filled bun, Gazelle locked eyes with Joseph. Flustered, he stammered, "Gazelle, I specially went to the south side of town to buy you this sauce-filled bun." Gazelle stomped on the bun, its juices splattering, leaving only a mess on the ground. She thanked him flatly. "Thanks, but I'm already full, I don't need it." Joseph clenched his fists so tightly that veins bulged on the back of his hands, his eyes instantly bloodshot. His voice was hoarse as he fell silent for a full minute before continuing. "Gazelle, can we talk alone?" Gazelle frowned and refused. "I have to take care of Regan. Go ahead, Mrs. Stewart said understandingly. Giselle, I'll keep an eye on Regan here. Giselle hesitated. But, I'm his own sister-in-law. What, don't you trust me? Giselle paused, somewhat helpless. All right then, where shall we talk? The two randomly chose a breakfast diner near the hospital. Joseph ordered 2 bowls of pork rib noodles, one without scallions or ginger, which was Giselle's eating habit, after all these years. Joseph remembered it even more clearly than she did, a man who took care of her in every little detail of life. Why would he fall for another woman? This question always left Giselle utterly perplexed, so, given this chance to sit down and talk properly, Giselle was the first to ask, does Isabella avoid eating scallions and ginger? Joseph's expression stiffened slightly. I don't know, Giselle said calmly. Oh, I thought you'd have her preferences memorized too. Joseph's expression froze instantly. Panicked, he grabbed his chopsticks and began stirring frantically in his pork rib noodles, not even daring to look up at Giselle. Joseph's ears rang as he paled and said, Giselle, it's my fault, but you must believe me, I never intended to let anyone else take Madame Stewart's position, it's just that she begged me, and in a moment of weakness, I thought since Uncle was in a vegetative state and would never wake up anyway, that's why. Joseph closed his eyes, his face contorted with guilt and remorse. You have every right to be angry. I deserve this. I shouldn't have brought Isabella into our home. Much less let her slander and hurt you like that. Hit me, curse me, do whatever you want to me. But don't leave me, okay? Joseph reached out, gripping her tightly, almost pleading. Giselle, if you're not by my side, I'll truly die. His deep, crimson eyes were filled with remorse and guilt. Yet Giselle's heart remained unyielding as stone, without a trace of softness left. In fact, watching his behavior from a bystander's perspective, waves of lingering fear kept surging through her heart. Perhaps discovering Isabella's existence earlier and cutting losses in time was actually a blessing in disguise for her. Giselle pushed Joseph away coldly. Mr. Joseph, strictly speaking, I am your elder, you should call me auntie. Joseph's eyes instantly surged with stormy waves, his pale lips trembling uncontrollably as he was about to speak when a sharp phone ring abruptly shattered the silence. Mr. Joseph, something's happened, the assistant shouted. Your mother has been taken by the police. Done. Giselle suddenly sat up, her eyes flashing with excitement. She pulled out her phone. The trending topics on social media had exploded. The top few posts were all sensational news. Giselle clicked on the latest one, and there it was, a video of Mrs. Stewart being taken away by the police. The top comment explains the whole story clearly. It said that Regan became a vegetative state back then because of Mrs. Stewart's scheme. He could have woken up long ago, but they kept drugging his drip. Due to the recent incident with Giselle, Regan was transferred to another hospital. Who would have thought there were surveillance cameras in the hospital room? Mrs. Stewart brought people to drug him this time, but unexpectedly Regan suddenly woke up. Moreover, her entire criminal process was caught on camera, ironclad evidence. She'll likely be arrested and charged with attempted murder, with such a huge scandal. Can the Stewart family still maintain their position as the top elite family in North Capital? Let's be honest, Mrs. Stewart committed such acts. Could Joseph really not know? Maybe from the very beginning, it was a joint scheme between mother and son. Giselle didn't continue watching. Calmly putting her phone back in her bag, she turned to leave. Meanwhile, Joseph finally regained his composure and grabbed Giselle's arm. Giselle, do you know something? He exerted tremendous force. Veins bulging on the back of his hands, his eyes wide and protruding as if dreading to hear an answer he didn't want. Yet Giselle slightly raised her eyebrows and calmly admitted, Indeed, otherwise, why do you think I suddenly brought Regan back to the country? She pried off Joseph's fingers one by one, her expression icy. Joseph, staying by your side is like being your toy, your dog. You treat me well, but I have no freedom or dignity. But when I try to leave, you refuse to let me go. It's as if you'd do anything to drag me back. You're insane. Your very existence poses a serious threat to me. I had no choice but to resort to this, Giselle said calmly. I believe old Master Stewart will soon step forward to change the heir of the Stewart family. Once you lose the power of the Stewart family, you'll never be able to do anything to me again. As soon as Giselle finished speaking, Joseph's phone began ringing frantically. Countless calls flooded in, notifying Joseph of this obvious fact. 10 minutes ago, the already retired elder Stewart suddenly issued a statement. The Stewart family has changed its heir to Regan. The Stewart family, under immense public pressure, chose to abandon Joseph. Joseph was thunderstruck. He stared in disbelief at the old man's face on his phone, his entire body trembling uncontrollably with violent tremors. Giselle simply said, Joseph. Excessive reliance on power will eventually lead to being devoured by that very power. With that, she turned to leave, But suddenly, an explosive pain erupted at the back of her head. Before fainting, Giselle only heard Joseph whisper a faint apology. "Giselle, I'm sorry, but I told you, I can't live without you." Giselle woke up to a gentle rocking motion. "Opening my eyes, all around was pitch black, yet a faint salty tang of the sea lingered at the tip of my nose." The lights suddenly flicked on. Joseph pushed the door open. Giselle indeed caught a glimpse of the vast ocean through the door crack. "Where are you taking me?" Giselle coughed, a flush rising to her cheeks. "Giselle, don't worry, I won't hurt you." Joseph knelt down beside her, tucking in the blanket. "I'm taking you somewhere no one can find us, where we can be together properly." Giselle remained silent, quietly closing her eyes. Joseph held her hand. "Hungry, what would you like to eat?" "I'll make it for you." Giselle still said nothing. Her eyes remained closed, as if she hadn't heard. Joseph remained frozen beside her for a moment before getting up on his own. "I'll make you boiled fish slices. Isn't that your favorite? Be good, Giselle, wait for me. I'll be right back." Giselle finally spoke in a hoarse voice. "Can you untie the ropes?" Joseph turned his back to Giselle and shook his head, saying, "Giselle, hold on a little longer, once we reach a safe place. I'll untie you." He quickly disappeared through the doorway. Giselle staggered off the bed, searching around for any sharp object that could cut the ropes, but Joseph had anticipated this in advance and removed all potential weapons from the room. Giselle sat back on the bed looking slightly exhausted when the door suddenly swung open. A staff member wearing a baseball cap walked in, carrying a plate of food. Giselle didn't think much of it, just put it over there. "Where's Joseph?" The person remained silent, quietly moving closer. Giselle finally sensed something was wrong, but the knife in the other's hand had already plunged toward Giselle's abdomen. A sharp pain suddenly spread, and Giselle widened her eyes, finally seeing clearly the face beneath the baseball cap. It was actually Isabella. Giselle quickly rolled away, blood gushing from her abdomen. "Help!" Isabella's expression twisted. "As long as you die, I'll be the rightful Mrs. Stewart. Just die." Isabella raised the sharp knife handle once more and thrust it toward Giselle's chest. Giselle tightly closed her eyes, her face deathly pale. But the anticipated pain never came. "Isabella," Joseph's voice exploded in her ears. "You're asking for death." Giselle opened her eyes to see Joseph grabbing the knife directly, its sharp blade slicing open Joseph's palm, blood gushing out. Joseph kicked Isabella away, shielding Giselle behind him. "Go call for help." But Isabella gave Giselle no chance to escape. She blocked Giselle once again. Just as the knife was about to plunge into Giselle, Joseph stepped in front of her again. With a thud, the blade sank into flesh. Joseph trembled all over and slowly collapsed to the ground, before completely passing out. He actually managed to wave his hand and cut the ropes binding Giselle. He clutched his chest, his eyes bulging. "Run." Before leaving, Giselle couldn't help but turn back to look at Joseph. He gave the chance of survival to himself. Perhaps, it wasn't as she had imagined, completely devoid of love. Joseph seems to have simply never learned how to love. In the distance, a yacht gradually approached. Regan leaped directly from the opposite boat, pulling Giselle into a tight embrace. "Are you okay?" Giselle was trembling all over. "Am I wound? Shouldn't be too deep." "Joseph is still inside." Regan immediately called for people to enter the cabin. Joseph was quickly carried out, covered in blood, on the verge of losing consciousness. But in his dazed state, he managed to ask, "Giselle, are you okay?" Regan looked down at him condescendingly. "You needn't worry about my wife." Joseph trembled all over, closing his eyes in restraint while repeating incessantly, "As long as she's fine. As long as she's fine." Before completely losing consciousness, Giselle was quickly taken to the hospital. Her wound wasn't deep and wasn't life-threatening. Joseph, however, was sent straight to the ICU. "He kept calling your name," Regan said. "Are you sure you won't go see him?" Giselle hesitated for just a moment before shaking her head lightly. "Forget it. I don't want to have anything to do with him anymore." No matter Joseph's heart was truly devoted to her. She refused to sink back into the quagmire of the past. Since she had chosen to start a new life, there was no point looking back. "Let's not talk about this anymore." Giselle forced a pale smile. "How have you been lately? How's Auntie Stewart?" "Sentenced to life, probably never getting out," Regan said calmly. "Now most of the Stewart family assets are in my hands. You can go wherever you want. No one will stop you anymore." As he spoke, he handed over a document. "This is for you." Giselle took it. It turned out to be divorce papers. Regan smiled faintly. "I imagine you've wanted this for a long time." Giselle thanked him. "Have you decided where to go next?" Regan asked her. Giselle gazed into the distance and shook her head lightly. "Not yet. I'll take it one step at a time. I just want to go out and see a different world, then decide what kind of life I truly want to live." Regan nodded. "All right, safe travels." Regan watched Giselle leave. But just as her figure was about to disappear from sight, He added, "My door is always open for your return." Gazelle paused for a moment, then lightly waved her hand without looking back, but she thought, perhaps this was the difference between Regan and Joseph. One chose to keep her tightly bound by his side, one chose to set her free. He remained where he was, leaving everything to experience and time. What will the future hold? Who knows, only by experiencing it. By seeing all the beauty this world has to offer, can one truly understand what they desire and decide whether to turn back or not. Later, Gazelle received a message from Regan at the summit of the Himalayan snow-capped mountains. Joseph ultimately passed away due to unsuccessful resuscitation. Before he died, he kept saying he wanted to see you one last time. I told him you weren't in City J, that you were traveling, and he didn't say anything more. In his final moments, he left you a message. I recorded it on my phone. If you want to hear it, I can send it to you. After a brief silence, Gazelle gazed at the distant rising sun and gently shook her head. Forget it, I won't listen anymore. The wind is free, never lingering for flowers or grass. It sweeps over mountain ridges, slips through fingers, then continues its journey through storms and nights without rest. Amidst the dazzling display of fireworks, one can only briefly experience its piercing chill and tender warmth. The end.